Good afternoon. I'm John Falchicchio, Deputy Mayor for Planning and Economic Development, and I wanted to welcome you to today's District Economic Recovery Team Weekly Check-In. Today I'm joined by Commissioner Karima Woods, who is the Director of the Department of Insurance, Securities, and Banking. Today she's going to talk to us a little bit about access to capital, and we know that that's a very important top-of-mind issue for businesses and entrepreneurs in this time in the pandemic, but it always is. And so we wanted to talk about a program that is administered by DSB, as we call it, the shorthand name for the agency that Commissioner Woods runs. And the program is called DC BizCap, the district's business capital program, which is funded by the U.S. Treasury State Small Business Credit Initiative. It is a fund that was created in 2010 to support small businesses and entrepreneurs. And so we're happy to have with us Commissioner Woods. Commissioner Woods is a DMPED alum and recent confirmed member of the Mayor's Cabinet. So I want to congratulate her for ascending to the position and for the work that I know she's going to do to make sure that DC small businesses and residents have what they need from the Department of Insurance, Securities, and Banking. So welcome, Commissioner.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Great. Commissioner, I'll turn it over to you.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Deputy Mayor Falchicchio, and good afternoon to everyone. I want to, just thank you all for inviting me to be here. As the Deputy Mayor mentioned, I am a new commissioner. I am the commissioner for the district's Department of Insurance, Securities, and Banking, and so pleased to be at the helm of such an esteemed organization, and very excited to talk with you a little bit more about what we're doing at DSB. As the Deputy Mayor mentioned, I am alum of DMPED, and so it's always good to be in the company of my fellow DMPED colleagues, and thank you for the work that you and your team have been doing around economic recovery and putting on a series of TeleTownHalls. I've had an opportunity to look at a number of them, and I find them to be quite informative, and pleased to be able to share what we're doing to support small businesses during this very unprecedented time. I want to share a little bit about the department. So the Department of Insurance, Securities, and Banking is a regulatory agency that is charged with overseeing the financial services entities that impact the day-to-day lives of district residents. Our mission is threefold. We're charged with cultivating a regulatory environment that protects consumers and attracts and retains financial services firms here in the district. Second, we're charged with empowering and educating residents on financial matters. And lastly, we're charged with providing the necessary financing for district small businesses. At the department, we take a very grassroots approach to the work that we do to ensure that we're educating residents and also business owners about their overall financial health and future. A few weeks ago, you all may recall that you had the director of our Office of Financial Empowerment and Education, Michelle Hammonds, where she probably talked about some of the programs that we focus on related to the Financially Fit DC initiative, the Bank on DC initiative, our newly formed Financial Navigators online platform. These are some of the ways in which we support and reach our residents to ensure that, one, they're educated about their finances, but more importantly, that they are managing their finances in a way that will help them personally, but also their families as well. We also have a set of other services and programs that we provide to residents and business owners. We just recently completed a higher education series where we talked about the importance of preparing students and families for the upcoming fall year. We have a student loan ombudsman who focuses on that. It was a very robust series, and we'll be conducting another series in October of this year, so very, very excited about that. We also have information that we provide on our website on a regular basis about financial scams and fraudulent activity that's happening. We have definitely seen an increase during this public health emergency around the increase in financial scams that are taking place here in the district and also nationally. And that's information that we provide on a regular basis on our website. So please visit our website at www.disb.dc.gov. We also provide information about financial products such as reverse mortgages, banking services, and personal and business insurance. We recognize that this information is absolutely critical, especially during this public health emergency. And so I do encourage you again to regularly visit our website where we have this information located. In addition, we extend our services to small businesses. We recognize that during this COVID-19 period, that the district's economic landscape is critical, and it's important that we are doing the necessary work to support small businesses and entrepreneurs, to support them, and also make sure that they're able to sustain themselves long-term during this public health emergency. And so this afternoon, I want to share with you a little bit about our DC BizCap program, and then allow our newly hired program manager to talk a little bit more about the DC BizCap program. The DC BizCap program overall provides capital to district small businesses and entrepreneurs who continue to encounter reductions in the availability of credit and also the heightened requirements around obtaining the necessary financing that they need to stay afloat. The DC BizCap program also provides critical capital through programs that provide alternatives to traditional commercial financing. The goal of the program overall is to facilitate private lending and investments to district small businesses. And you'll hear a little bit about how we go about doing that from our very robust panel here today. As the Deputy Mayor mentioned, the DC BizCap program has been around for several years. It was created as a result of the U.S. Treasury State Small Business Credit Initiative through the Small Business Act of 2010. It was designed to respond to the 2008 economic recession. So the program itself has been around for a significant period of time, but we're excited to announce and talk with you about some of the relaunch efforts that we are undergoing to ensure that we can not only run the program, but make sure that it's relevant to the needs of small business in this current COVID-19 period. So as I mentioned, we have a new program manager, Aaron Fenwick, who has spent his career working in commercial lending and has a very strong passion for helping small businesses succeed. And so you'll hear more from him. Another way in which we are renewing our focus on the program is through establishing new relationships with lenders and also focused on strengthening our existing relationships with lenders as well. And finally, as the new commissioner for the department, I will see to it and fully committed to ensuring that we maximize the support that is necessary for businesses during this COVID-19 period and beyond. We recognize that access to capital is critical. It's something that we hear about continuously when talking with businesses, and it's something that we know that collectively that we're all working on to address here in the district. So I want to thank you for allowing me to join you all today. If you would like additional information about the DC BizCap program, again, I encourage you to visit our website at disb.dc.gov. Our panelists for this town hall, which I'm very, very excited about, include Aaron Fenwick, as I mentioned, our program analyst for the Department of Insurance, Securities, and Banking, Shauna Yettle, who is the Director of Lending with the Washington Area Community Investment Fund, Blair O'Connell, who is the Vice President of Commercial Lending with United Bank, and Philip Samble, who's Executive Director of Oasis Community Partners. So again, I'm very excited about the panelists, and I will kick things over for each of the panelists to tell us a little bit about themselves before we move forward with our discussion about small businesses. With that, we'll start with you, Aaron.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Woods. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm pleased to be able to serve the district small business owners and entrepreneurs through the DC BizCap program. As a program analyst, my goal is to help entrepreneurs and small businesses access capital through partnerships with commercial lending institutions. I spent 18 years in banking as a vice president, commercial loan officer, as well as a client manager. As a career lender, I understand the importance of programs like these as it facilitates an environment of economic growth for job creators in the district. I'm passionate about economic development, specifically providing those job creators the capital they need to continue to grow the economy. It is my personal belief that when small businesses, financial institutions, and community organizations work together towards common goals, it contributes to a healthy economy. As a recap on the program, DC BizCap facilitates private lending to small businesses operated in Washington, D.C. that are creditworthy but have challenges obtaining funding needed for expansion and job creation. With the loan participation, collateral support, and innovation finance programs, lenders can lend more by mitigating loan risk for borrowers with cash flow as well as collateral deficiencies. The Collateral Support Program provides capital to small businesses with collateral deficiencies by depositing cash with lenders to use as collateral for loans. The Loan Participation Program buys up to 50% of a loan originated and approved by approved lenders at subsidized interest rates to reduce the borrower's debt service and expense of the loan. The Innovation Finance Program provides capital through a co-investment with an innovation finance company or by investing as a limited partner in an innovation finance company that shall make the investment into that small business. Since the program's inception, we have lent to a vast array of business types within the district. This includes the construction companies who build our great city, not-for-profits who support the capital's philanthropic needs, to the retail businesses like restaurants and health and wellness centers. Of the $13.2 million in funding awarded to the Department of Insurance, Securities, and Banking for the program, $6.2 million is presently obligated to support small business lending in the district, with another $7.2 million available for future lending. Thank you again, and we'll transition over to Commissioner Woods.
Great. Why don't we have the rest of the panelists introduce themselves, and we'll start with you, Shauna, and then go to Blair, and then Philip.
Thank you, and we are definitely delighted to be here. Again, my name is Shauna Yeldell, and I currently serve as the Director of Lending for Washingtonian Community Investment Fund, or WACIF, as we call it. I personally have about 25 years of lending experience. Commercial lending, most of it has been with traditional financial institutions, but for the last 5 years, most of my experience has been with mission-based lenders such as WACIF, CDFIs. So it's kind of become my passion to create sustainable paths for access to capital, because as a traditional lender, what I saw most often was there's a definite disadvantaged population of people that were not able to be served by these major financial institutions. So my role here as Director of Lending, I'm definitely responsible for providing strategic leadership for WACIF's lending platform, as well as I oversee the day-to-day operations and relationship management, which includes our partners such as DSB and others. So the work that WACIF does is critically important, given the two pandemics that we're facing now, both the coronavirus as well as the social justice for people of color. So our work is really designed to provide disadvantaged entrepreneurs with equal access to whether it's knowledge-based or financial capital to establish, grow, maintain, depending on each borrower's individual objectives. So we have a vast team of professionals here at WACIF, bringing all of that experience to our clients. And we also provide a lot of the knowledge capital with little to no cost to our entrepreneurs due to our our relationships with the U.S. Department of Treasury through CDFI, also the Small Business Administration, SBA, bank partners, and then other corporate foundations. So because of these generous, in some cases, donations or loan funds or whatever the case may be, we're able to provide a lot of technical assistance to business owners in the city at little to no charge. So again, thank you for allowing us to be here and be represented in this panel.
Great, thank you. Blair?
Thank you, and good afternoon. Thank you for having me as well. Blair O'Connell with United Bank. I've been with the bank for about 4 years now, through merger with Bank of Georgetown prior to that. Been a district resident since 2004. Went to high school and college here. And to echo some of Shauna's comments, it's been a pleasure as a resident and as a banker in the city, seeing how much it's improved even since 2009 when I graduated from school. And it's fun to be a part of that. That really is, it has been an enjoyable piece. What I like about the DSB and programs that they're able to offer is, it is unfortunate when not everyone can participate in that tide rising. So these programs really do allow a lot of folks who probably otherwise just would be left out in the cold by a bigger bank to access, lenders' expertise, government officials' expertise, and getting them in that, economic pipeline, I would call it, so they can benefit from it. And on a side note, not that this is focused on that as much, but doing the affordable housing in the district, I've really become more involved in that over the last 2 years, I would say. And we've done an excellent job of helping Mayor Bowser and everyone else whose goal is to provide affordable housing units. It's tough. It's definitely not as fast as I think everybody would like, but it has been a lot of fun. And the two goals kind of go hand in hand. Small business, as we all see, running it runs the local economy, runs the national economy. And when housing and small business is not able to be obtained by everyone, it just makes it difficult, and we can't move forward as a small community here in D.C., 50 square miles, but also a significant chunk of 50 square miles. So that's my introduction. We are the nation's capital community bank. We have plenty of money to lend, so anytime we can help anyone, small or big, we look forward to it. So again, thank you for having me on this panel today.
Excellent, and thank you for your remarks. Philip?
Hi, thank you, Commissioner Woods and Deputy Mayor Falchicchio for having me here on this panel and for hosting this important discussion. I'm Philip Samble, Executive Director of Oasis Community Partners, which is a DC 501c3 nonprofit dedicated to improving food access and community health. We achieved the food access component of our mission with Good Food Markets, which is a social enterprise grocery store located just a couple doors down from Wakeith. And we love seeing all the Wakeith folks at lunch and on their way home from the office for dinner groceries. And for those of you who may not know, a social enterprise is usually a for-profit, sometimes a nonprofit, but a business that is dedicated to a social outcome. In our case, improving the health of residents who live in so-called food deserts, which the USDA defines as areas of 1 mile or more from a full-service grocery store. And as anyone who's driven around Wards 5, where we operate Good Food Markets, Ward 7, Ward 8, large swaths of Prince George's County and other parts of our region, the neighborhoods that lack grocery stores, still have a lot of people. There's 150,000+ people living in Ward 7 and 8, for example, served by only 3 grocery stores, which is by far the lowest per capita in the district. But what there are corner stores, 7-Elevens, carry-outs, fast food establishments, and with a few notable exceptions like participants in DC Central Kitchen's Healthy Corners program. Those types of businesses typically carry shelf-stable food, fried food, essentially products that are high in salt, fat, and sugar. And the prevalence of that unhealthy food combined with the lack of healthy food has led to epidemic levels of obesity, diabetes, and heart disease. Indeed, these are the leading causes of death in food deserts, along with violent crime. So coupled with the fresh food access that Good Food Markets offers in our grocery store setting, the nonprofit owner, Oasis Community Partners, is also engaged in cooking classes, youth education programs, one-on-one nutrition counseling that can impact consumers' food choices and ultimately, their personal health and ultimately the health of the entire community. Over the last several months in the pandemic context, Oasis and Good Food Markets have been using that grocery store platform and the relationships that we've built with our neighbors and community-based organizations working in the neighborhood in Ward 5 to provide almost 100,000 pounds of fresh produce at weekly pop-up food banks at Good Food Markets. We also operated a grocery box program for the DC Office of Emergency Management that was about providing district residents with healthy and shelf-stable groceries so they could get through the pandemic safely without having to leave the house. Again, I'm very happy to be here and to talk more about the BizCap program, which Good Food Markets has utilized on 2 of our projects.
Great. Thank you, Philip. And I would be remiss, Deputy Mayor, if I didn't also mention that Good Foods Market is also a Great Streets grantee. So thank you for all the work that you're doing here in the city, Philip, through Oasis Partners, but also through Good Foods Market as well. Deputy Mayor?
Oh, absolutely. Well, thank you, everybody, for joining us and for the presentations. We're going to do a couple questions, and we have folks listening on the telephone. We have folks watching on social media, and, of course, others tuning in on Channel 16. For the folks who are listening on the phone line, if you have a question for any of the participants, you could press 0 now. And you can get into the queue to ask a question. And our folks are also monitoring the streams on Twitter and Facebook to see if there are any questions there as well from our participants at home. But before we get to that, I wanted to ask a few questions for the folks here in the room with me and also on the panel via WebEx. So first up, Aaron, so if I'm a small business, how do I know whether I should utilize the DC BizCap program? And I know you laid out a couple different ways that you can access the program, but how do I know if I can or should access the program?
Sure. Thank you. If you're a small business owner and you have challenges with collateral, insufficient collateral to fund a deal, the collateral support program is a phenomenal solution for you. If you are a business owner and maybe you've approached a bank and the bank is telling you that you don't quite have the cash flow necessary to fund the deal, the loan participation program is a great program where it buys back up to 50% of the loan at a subsidized interest rate, thus reducing the expenses and improving what they would call the debt service coverage. And on the Innovation Finance Program, if you're an innovative business, you're trying to find innovative ways to solve community problems within the district, I think that's a great program for you as well.
And we've been talking a lot in these weekly check-ins about the SBA programs. Mm-hmm. So can you utilize this tool in order to maybe look at a economic injury disaster loan or another SBA loan program? How do they kind of take this into account?
That's a great question, especially with things going with the PPP and the economic challenges we're facing with COVID. The program is unable to attach to any guaranteed portion of an SBA loan. That's not to say that it cannot be attached to a loan that has an SBA guarantee on it. It just cannot be attached to a loan, the guaranteed portion of the loan.
All right, so folks are going to have questions about that.
Mm-hmm.
So one more time, we've got to put on the screen your contact information, just because I know that slide was up there, but it was up there fast. So we'll have that information for everybody to be able to utilize and reach out to Aaron. And I want to go to some of our panelists. First up, Shauna, can you tell us when in the last few months, what have the challenges been that you've seen for small businesses and entrepreneurs? And obviously today's conversation is about access to capital. What are those challenges that you see? Because sometimes we really want to just highlight for folks that they're not alone in the challenges that they're facing with their business. So can you tell us a little bit about that?
Absolutely. It's probably just unprecedented in so many ways. COVID-19 has really been problematic for a number of our prospective borrowers, existing clients, and so Early on, our focus was on just making sure that we could stabilize as much as possible our existing client base. And a lot of disruption, if your business is closed, for example, hair, skin, and nails, and even restaurants to a great extent at the beginning of the crisis. If you're closed, there's not a lot you can do to generate revenue. So our focus early on was really trying to support them by modifying payments, converting the payments to interest only, or providing debt relief as we were, given various amounts of funding to do just that. Now that things are somewhat beginning to stabilize, slowly open, we're seeing those business owners begin to pivot and generate, a diverse form of revenue, so to speak. But we are seeing a lot of disruption in terms of construction delays, delays in permitting, and things that they really can't move their projects forward, or they can't complete projects that were started, in February, waiting for inspections and things like that. And in some cases, trying to support, rent or lease in two different locations. So that's been problematic. And so our approach, has clearly been, help us understand what's going on, and if it's something that we can maybe modify the loan or interest-only payments, just looking at the overall picture and the dynamics that they have to juggle as business owners. And, of course, financial record keeping outside of COVID has always been a challenge, but even more so as it relates to being able to apply for some of the incentives that have been mentioned previously, some of the grant opportunities, EIDL loans, and things like that are available. But if you had challenges gathering your financial information, that may or may not be an option for you. So it's hard to see that anyway, but it's especially hard to see in this environment where that there are options and programs that they could take advantage of if their record keeping was such as they could present. So definitely unique challenges, but as far as WAKIF, we've been, of course, designated to administer various grant programs from private and public kinds of institutions, and so that's been great. A lot of business owners just need the cash, to be able to carry them through this disruption. And so the grants and administering the grants has been very helpful, and we've been happy to do that and been asked to do that. And then we're looking at programming as well. What type of programming or education do these business owners need to be able to pivot? Maybe they pivot forever. They don't go back to their original, business model. Maybe it requires a change that will be permanent or maybe, temporary, because we don't know how long this is going to exist, but clearly it's changing everything for a long time. So I'll stop there. I don't know if there are any questions about that.
Well, what's your best advice, too, for businesses in terms of that catch-up on that record-keeping or paperwork? When they're thinking about a program like DC BizCap, how do they get ready for it? What do you suggest for folks before? Because when they're trying to navigate all these programs that are available to them, how do they sort of prepare themselves in order to know which one might be right for them?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we like to start with the intake process so we can assess where they are. If they don't have the basics of, record keeping, then we certainly have professionals that we refer them to. But if they are, but they're just overwhelmed, they're inundated with lots of information and how do I fit what where, we have our, business advisory team that is very instrumental in helping that initial assessment. So for people that are interested in working with WAKIF or need our assistance, the website is the first place to go. And we definitely ask for a lot of information on that intake form, but it's just to allow us to assess where they are and where we can provide the most in terms of resources.
So I guess your advice, Shauna, is before you go see Blair, come see you.
Well, and it may be that, if the clients come to us, we can work with our various partners. And I'm sure we'll talk about this later, but, in packaging solutions for clients, we often consider programs, like the loan participation program and collateral, if there's a collateral shortfall, or if, as Aaron mentioned previously, they really need the help in terms of debt service coverage. Or if there is a possibility to engage a banking partner, we certainly are open to that as well.
Fantastic. And Blair, one, I want to thank you. As Deputy Mayor, I have 3 jobs. It's to look out for 3 key areas, and it is jobs, tax revenue, and affordable housing. I knew we'd be able to talk about tax revenue and jobs today. I didn't realize we'd talk about affordable housing, so I want to thank you for bringing that into the conversation today. So tell us, at United Bank, I know that you processed a lot of PPP loans, but you've seen people come to you with sort of the challenges in the pandemic. So same question to you, kind of what is your first piece of advice to businesses as they're trying to look at really the whole plethora of programs that are out there, how they pick what's right for them? How do you help them navigate that, Blair?
Sure, and yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to bring up another tough subject, but affordable housing is kind of been on my mind every day for like the last 6 months or so. But again, echoing some of Shauna's comments, I mean, we were kind of joking, but the financials piece, I mean, that is very important. I think for any small business owner, like she said, whether you're a single person doing hair and nails, you have 10 employees doing hair and nails, you're running a restaurant, whatever it is, having put together professional looking as best you can financial information is a huge part for any financial institution to even begin the process of lending you money. So I would recommend that. Just even if it isn't the best picture in the world, there's nothing worse than a kind of an incomplete package. So even if it isn't the most beautiful, rosy financial picture, having it be accurate, I would almost argue, is more important than what the results say themselves. Just so it instills some confidence in that lender, whoever she or he may be, when they are looking at it, they can go, okay, well, we see that there's an issue. There's a global pandemic going on. I'm just talking about this year specifically, of course, but it would allow, it just gives some confidence to the lender when they're new to you, new to the relationship. There's a lot of trust to be earned on both sides of the table, from the client to the lender. We've seen a lot of unfortunately, our fellow banking members acting in unprofessional manners out there, whether that's opening accounts without permission or just blowing off an application because it's not a high-profile, larger client. And I will brag on United Bank for a second. I don't have the final numbers, but I know we as a market, as a bank, did a tremendous amount of PPP loans individually, and I think we did a very good job of not making a distinction between certainly our larger clients who do have a lot of influence, loans, deposits with us, but you're sole proprietors. Somebody that owns a gas station, somebody that owns a bricklaying service, and so I think another important piece of recommendation I would give to a small business owner. I would consider your banking relationship. If you've just had a big bank be your depositor for a long time, I would ask you to at least consider, what do I need in the next 1 to 5 to 10 years? What do I need next month as far as my banking needs? And a lot of times as you grow, you'll find that's not just, I need a place to deposit my check, get some cash out of the ATM for change for a farmer's market or a local neighborhood sale. Really try to think, and I'm sure, it sounds like Shauna and her group would be the ones to kind of counsel on that. But what do you need? Is it a small business loan of $5,000? Is it $25,000? Is it a line of credit? Is it a term loan for kitchen equipment? And ask yourself, who and what partnership do I want to look for in a bank and a banker that's going to help me get there? So I would just, it takes some thought, and you really have to identify what you're looking for. But I think that's important, is to find out, this is what I think I will need for my business. Again, the next week, next month, next year, and then in the 5 years of where I'm trying to get to, whatever that may be, whatever your goals may be. And then just in the immediate right now, I think the PPP loans, again, we did a tremendous amount of volume with them. A lot of the bigger banks just either didn't participate or just unable to get to clients. I think the PPP funds are are huge right now. A lot of people that is their only source of revenue, keeping people employed. And so if unfortunately it's ended for right now, it sounds like Congress and the White House may at some point extend it, to be determined. But I think if they do come back for a third round, again, ask yourself, who is your bank, and have they helped me? Will they help me with this type of funding? Because I've talked to a tremendous amount of clients who've received PPP funds, and I'm talking the $0 to $50,000 loan amount range. Certainly on the smaller end, it's everything right now. So if you're with a bank that's not able to do that, I would my recommendation would just be to ask yourself some tougher questions and think about what you need again next week, next month, next year, and see if those two things are in alignment.
And Blair, for all that was said about PPP, I was looking at some PPP data today, and it's lending in the district, and I did notice that United Bank was a standout in terms of the diversity of the loans that it wrote in the PPP program. So kudos to you for that. And if there is a third round, and hopefully that third round has a second draw, that United will keep it up and work with partners like Wakefift to make sure those loans and the district businesses take full advantage of those loans if it comes about again. So thank you for that work.
And I appreciate you mentioned that, and I will also just say, I mean, it was we helped a lot of people that were not originally United Bank clients. I don't know what the percentage would be, but there was a lot of folks, and I think we probably earned goodwill for a long, long time. Just they were left out in the cold. And again, I'm not going to name any banks by name, but just the larger ones. And I think it was a fast-moving program. There was a lot of panic in early April. April of 2020 is a month I never want to relive again. But there was a lot of panic at that time. And I just will say I think we handled it very, very well for existing clients, big and small, and for people that were not clients at all, who just needed somebody to talk to, somebody to at least get a fair shot at an application to get PPP funding.
A fair shot is what we always aim for in the Bowser administration, so thank you. Philip, so I see a guitar in the background. If there's one song that summarizes the DC BizCap program, what would it be?
Was the question is if there's one song for the DC BizCap program, what would it be? That's a great question.
I won't hold you that one. We'll give you some time to think about that.
Don't hold me to that one. Yeah, I'll think about that one. What would be the perfect soundtrack for this interview?
Exactly. So, but tell us, you all have utilized BizCap. Was that with Good Foods Market, or tell us a little bit about your experience with using the DC BizCap program?
Yeah. So first time around was in 2016, and as Aaron mentioned, the program works in conjunction with either new or existing debt. In this case, it was with City First Bank, a local CDFI here in DC. And Blair, thank you for bringing up the important role that small community banks play, especially during the PPP process. City First was able to process PPP applications for all of Good Food Market's entities, where our national bank, where we have some depository accounts, wasn't even able. City First was able to process the applications before the national bank even had an application process. So I think there's a lot to be said for small, nimble organizations, whether they be in the retail space, in the banking space, or what have you. But to be more specific, our program with Good Food Markets and City First was to support the launch of the pilot Good Food Market store in Woodridge, Langdon neighborhoods of Ward 5, and really helped us to navigate those difficult early years when you're figuring so much out on the fly. We used to joke, it's a lot like jumping out of the airplane and building your parachute on the way down. The ground keeps getting closer and closer, and you've just got to stay focused and calm and keep building that parachute. And every stitch, every piece of cloth that you're able to add to it slows it down, right? And so, we talk a lot about this with new business owners that we meet or food businesses that are trying to launch at good food markets. How much runway do you have? How much dry powder? How much cash that is not accounted for do you have sitting in your account? That's the lifeblood of the business. For a lot of businesses, whether you be a social enterprise where there's not a huge profit potential, or maybe you don't have great credit, both of those things were true for good food markets, or for whatever reason you can't put down a personal guarantee, or you don't want to risk everything you own in order to try a new business idea, the equity structure of the BizCap program, or at least the dollars function like equity in that they're there to support all of the other things that are going on. For those of us who don't have the rich uncle or the personal balance sheet to walk in and take out a personal loan, these types of programs are irreplaceable. And I think the thing that makes getting a business off the ground the most challenging is having people in your corner. And so, I hear Shauna talk about the technical assistance and the programs that WakeIF offers. There's no substitute for cash, but there's a lot of ways to get there, and one of which is to lose less. And those kind of technical assistance programs, informal partnerships, and relationships with other businesses that develop when you're part of cohorts like WakeIFs or other organizations, I think are really, really important for sharing information amongst the business community, but also just survival. A lot of this is just getting up on a day-to-day basis and having the drive and the determination to do it, and that's not easy, and no one can do that by themselves. So, from the balance sheet all the way down to, the day-to-day, business of running the grocery store, being a part of the BizCap program and the networks that DSB is attached to has really been important for Good Food Market's growth. And to point that have been made a few times here, Good Food Markets has been since 2016, working to establish a grocery store in Ward 8 that, like I mentioned earlier, is one of the lowest food access neighborhoods in the region and certainly in the district. And that project has been extremely delayed. It has been over budget through absolutely no fault of Good Food Markets. And all of that was already taking place when COVID hit. And that did not make anything easier. That project was at risk of falling apart because the costs were going up, and we had a set amount of sources of capital for that project, and we exhausted them. Not to say we spent every dollar, but it was all accounted for. And so we had to go out and find new capital in order to cover the increases in costs that were driven entirely by things outside of our control. If we were a traditional entrepreneur funding this out of our own pocketbook, we probably would have walked away because it doesn't behoove the equity investor who's looking solely for a financial return to keep throwing good money after bad. And there wouldn't have been a super great position for another operator to step into and create the food access that Ward 8 desperately needs. So I just say all that to highlight, how irreplaceable funding like the BizCap program is, particularly for new entrepreneurs or those from backgrounds where they don't have a big Rolodex of people they can call to stroke large checks.
Definitely. Thank you for that. That's really helpful. I think that there were a lot of good points in there, and I'm glad to hear that there's still progress on Good Food Market in Ward 8. We're excited for that project. We're hoping to see it through fruition because now more than ever, people need access to food and healthy food at that. So what I want to do now is go to the phone lines. We have a call from Commissioner Branham from Ward 5. Commissioner, your line should be open, and you have a question, I'm told, about BizCap eligibility. Commissioner, can you hear us?
Yes. Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can, and Aaron is waiting for your question.
Okay. First of all, I want to say greetings to you, John, Karima, and to Aaron, Shauna, Blair, and Philip. I believe I called the roll.
Thank you.
My question is, are religious institutions, nonprofits, or other organizations, nonprofit organizations, eligible for this loan program to get access to capital?
Good question. Absolutely, not-for-profits are eligible for the program. The program requires that you are not a non-public company that provides services in D.C. and is subject to the district taxation.
And we had that question on social media. So say it again, it's any district nonprofit?
So it can be a not-for-profit. The program requires that you operate in D.C. and that you're subject to district taxation.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you for that. We have another caller, Mr. Bernard, is it? Mr.
Hello, this is Laris.
Oh, Laris.
Hello?
Sorry about that.
Hi, this is Laris Bernard with Laris Media. I'm calling to speak to or say thank you to Blair O'Connell with United Bank. I was one of those people. I'm from Ward 8 and received a very small PPP loan that was incredibly helpful. So I just want to say that, yes, United Bank really did step in. It does show growth under Mr. O'Connell, because I'm sure they would not have responded the same way 10 years ago. But they certainly did step up to the plate, and I did refer others to them. So just want to say thank you for rolling up your sleeves, and they processed that loan extremely quickly in May, I believe it was. So thank you.
Well, thank you for that. Are you still with us? Can you hear me?
Oh, yes. I've been a United Bank customer for over 20 years.
Oh.
And so it was nice to actually get some support back from the bank that I have been a long patron of.
And tell us about your business and how it's been faring in the pandemic.
Well, I, was doing well till about June. So I guess I applied for the loan after that. I lost a client due to COVID. And so I quickly applied for a loan to be able to maintain the consultants I have on my team. So it was critical, yeah.
Well, thank you for that.
What was the name of the business, just so I know?
Oh, yes, it's Laris Media. I do marketing, digital marketing, and social media management for small businesses. Please give me a call. You can find us at larismedia.com. So that's LERIS. media.com.
Great. Now, I don't want to say that I was fishing for that, but I wanted to give you the opportunity to tell folks about your business.
I appreciate it.
As well as thank Blair for helping the business get through this. So thank you for that. Just going back to Philip.
Glad we can help.
Just going back to Philip for a second. Good Foods Market. So how is the Ward 5 location doing during the pandemic? How's it been impacted?
Yeah, we saw, as many grocers did, because of the compression of food purchases into basically only the grocery channel, we saw a jump in sales. That has not sustained, however. I think that, and I've heard this from other small grocers as well, it's starting to fall off as people are continuing to limit the number of trips that they make to the grocery store and are even more discerning than they were before about which store they're visiting. Small stores like Good Food Markets, even neighborhood grocers in higher income communities, are experiencing the same thing. And we all kind of run up against this problem in one way or another as small businesses. If I can go to the Giant, Target, Safeway, wherever, and I know I can get everything I need on my list, I'm less likely to go to the little store where I might get better customer service, and I appreciate that it's in my community and I can get most of what I need. But in the COVID context, that's in even less attractive option. So, I think that the question for all independent retail is whether or not customers will go back to their local grocer or cleaner or media company, dance studio, barbershop, salon, what have you, and maybe whether those businesses will even be there. I've seen some really scary numbers, and I don't want to talk out of school. Maybe others here on the panel know more than I, but I've seen 20% of small businesses have already closed permanently or declared bankruptcy. That is 50%, 50, 1 in 2 for African American owned businesses. Again, those are numbers that I've read in the media. I'm not 100% sure that they're accurate, but I think we all know by just walking down our main street, wherever that may be, that businesses are closing, and there are businesses that are closed now that will never come back. And so I think the question for independent businesses and the cities that they serve are, how are we going to recover in that way? How are we going to fill those retail spaces? How are we going to get those businesses back or put those entrepreneurs in a position where they can be contributing to the economy and to their neighborhoods? I think that's the really important thing. And it gets to the points that Shauna made at the top around the two crises that we're facing. One new, the COVID, and one old. And that has to do with, the founding of this country and working in the food system. We are, daily faced with implications that we're still facing from the history of slavery and exploitation of land and labor that built our food system. And so, I think for those, especially for those of us who think and are trying to be, on the right side of history, so to speak, that we're really checking our biases and practicing empathy and, trying to really make change within our organizations and throughout the org chart. I felt so many times myself that I'm like putting a glossy sheen on a rusted out, piece of metal that is not going to get us where we need to go. And I think this is really a once in a lifetime moment to use the positions of power that we have to actually radically improve the equity and equality in our society. And small businesses have always been, along with home ownership and affordable housing, the drivers of wealth and growth for the lower and middle class. And I think, the more we invest in that locally, the better DC will recover, and hopefully we can continue to be a model for the rest of the country and how to do that.
Absolutely. And just to go to that point about affordable housing, I wanted to mention that when Blair brought it up before, I wasn't shunning him. I was actually excited because it is so interconnected, whether it's affordable housing, supporting small businesses, making sure there's food access in all of our neighborhoods. It's all connected. And so we had a couple questions from social media related to where small businesses can access more information from the panelists and from DC government about the grants, loans, any funding. So what we do is we update information on coronavirus.dc.gov. We have a page on that for recovery. So if you go to that page, that's where we'll put all the information from this District Economic Recovery Team weekly check-in, and you can find cataloged other weekly check-ins as well and the information from those. So I want to thank the panelists for joining us, Blair, Philip, and Shauna. Thank you for joining us, for sharing your perspective as we kind of really just get out information and really give people perspective about managing their way through the pandemic. I also want to thank Commissioner Woods and to allude to what Philip said, if you don't have a rich uncle, you have Aaron. So you could reach out to Aaron. Commissioner and Aaron, do you want to one more time just give your contact information in terms of the website and where people can find information?
Absolutely. But first, I want to say, in order for a program like DC BizCap to really work, it requires very sound partners. And so I want to just thank the partners on the panel today for all the work that you're doing to help us collectively reach our goals. So thank you so much. To find out more information about the DC BizCap program and the department overall, please visit our website at www.disb.gov. Mayor.dc.gov, or you can call us directly at 202-727-8000 and speak with a live person that can connect you with the necessary staff member. Again, thank you, and thank you, Deputy Mayor.
Aaron, Commissioner, thank you so much for joining us this week. This was really informative, and especially as we see some of the programs sort of tail off, knowing that BizCap is there for district businesses and entrepreneurs, it really does give people another sort of avenue to look for capital support. So thank you for joining us. There were some other questions on social media about unemployment. There was an executive order that was signed by President Trump about allowing the federal unemployment benefit to be extended. The District of Columbia has not yet applied for that, but the program is still under review. Even for states that have applied and are approved, that benefit doesn't get paid out until mid to late September. So our Department of Employment Services is still evaluating the program, and we'll really kind of come back to the district and to our residents and businesses to let folks know if we're able to navigate that program and provide that benefit to residents and others who've made an unemployment claim to the District Department of Employment Services. So more to come on that soon. But want to thank everybody for joining us for the District Economic Recovery Weekly Check-In. This week we'll post all the information that we discussed today on coronavirus.dc.gov. So be sure to check there for updates. And as always, be safe. Thank you.
Thank you.